be here with you again on the Duro, close to JTA's HQ, and super excited to talk to you today about something really important for us as a company. You know, we've worked with Microsoft in different capacities for the last 25 years, and our relationship is evolving with Microsoft as, you know, our team of over 100 now at JTA has taken on the challenge of getting certified in the Azure Data and AI universe. I think we were building on those capabilities for a long time, but the certification is certainly an important step. From your perspective as CEO, why was this such a important initiative to drive?
Yeah, first of all, thanks so much also to challenging me to actually be here and talking about this topic, because it's super relevant for JTA. And again, like, it's nothing new for us, but it's more formalizing what we've been doing for many years. Because as you know, like, we were Microsoft Gold partner for many years, and of course, like, they changed recently, and our go-to-market strategy was not going through partners and in this kind of, I'll say, avenue, but we actually understand kind of the power also of this one, and having internal team being certified and just get, like, more and more that Microsoft is a big bet on data and AI with all these new capabilities of Azure. We thought, like, let's do it, and this kind of super important for us, not only for the work that we've been doing until now, but is more capabilities and know exactly the new stuff that is being released every single day on Azure. So
the pace of innovation is crazy, so it's never a bad idea to sharpen our pencils for sure. And you actually did the exam. I didn't do the exam, and all our clients will take a huge sigh of relief to hear that. But you did the exam. Obviously, like, JTA's been building, to your point, on Azure since it was literally released in February of, like, 2010, I think. But based on the exam, what capabilities were you impressed with?
Yeah, I wouldn't focus too much on the exam, but also all the prep that we did for the exam, and it's great because, like, there is a lot of things that on the day-to-day you don't think about, you know what I mean, like all the security layer that you need to put, and nowadays it's so important to make sure that data is secure, and Microsoft is always very aware of this challenging, and, you know what I mean, like, what right type of security you need to implement, but also not only on that one, but also getting, you know what I mean, like, what are the capabilities of Fabric, and I think, like, sometimes on the day-to-day project, sometimes we don't go into such level of detail of and capabilities that actually Fabric and ontology and all these the other kind of tools, I would say, or service that Azure brings, that I think is so important, having the team understanding kind of all these details, and actually the very kind of interesting initiative, also dynamic, where we actually had working sessions together, so we can actually not only talk about the one, but also bring questions that some of the questions might not go into the exam, but it was very helpful for us to talk to the client and actually deploy and do some training on that one or in trying. So I think it was really important for us to do that, and I learned a lot. I mean, like, as you know, like, my background is very technical, and in the last few years I'm kind of being away, and doing that, you actually rehash a little bit kind of my love about the technology and those kind of things, and again, like, it's the type of things with not only with Microsoft, but also with other partners, that we can know exactly kind of how the world kind of is evolving in this AI world, and Microsoft has been kind of also very, I would say, innovative on this thing. So I think it's always, I would recommend everybody just doing, because it's quite interesting.
And I assume you passed with flying colors, of course. Well,
I did my best.
No, very good. It's really interesting when you mentioned, like, the security aspect, because I think people think about, like, you know, new capabilities today around like agentic AI and whatnot, and kind of, like, don't go deeper, but there's so much that needs to be redone at these different layers, from a data perspective, from, like, the plumbing perspective, from security as well, because, like, traditionally security has really gone down to access to an application or a particular visual, but it's a little bit more static. Now security has to be classified, especially if you're, like, doing agentic reporting, to say, hey, you in your role don't have access to ask this question, so I can't respond an answer to you. So it, like, has to be done in a lot more in real time, and I think, you know, this type of partnership is really interesting in terms of how we can help organizations build the operational layer around their AI capabilities and their data capabilities.
Agree, and I think, like, another I would say thematic that I would like to to highlight here and to raise is kind of more and more. I think people sometimes kind of undervalue that, but data governance is crucial in these things. And I mean, like what, as I said, like who and where they can actually access data, you know what I mean, and be able to read what, you know what I mean. And again, like when we were kind of on the report layer, you know what I mean, like there is so many kind of ways that role level security, like that you can actually, is very visually to do that, because you can play, you can impersonate the person, and it's so interesting, like to or I would say it's easier to actually double check that what the other person is seeing is what they are allowed to do it. But here it's in the AI world, the challenge is harder. I mean, you are limited in terms of how many questions, or the way that you can actually ask the same question, to not confuse the LLM, to actually provide you an answer that you can't. So I think like having the right guardrails and having the right reason on that one is crucial. Otherwise, I mean, like you could destroy a project or a relationship if things are not well set up. And I always kind of not only internal but also externally, I always used to say that when you do this parallelism from the BI world to the data science and to the AI, you know what I mean? Of course, there is a lot of and this also, I think, the same thing happens in the paper era to the digital era. You know what I mean? It's the error is magnified. You know what I mean? Like when you make a mistake, or when a mistake kind of happens, you know what I mean? Like in a reporting, you might be guardrail kind of in a single cell. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that value is not right. But when that is exponential, you know what I mean, like in context to a LLM, that could destroy kind of all your numbers. And I think like that's kind of what, like even like when you do, I know, maths exam, you know what I mean? Like if you can do all the reason correct, but if you get the input wrong, you know what I mean, everything will be wrong, even if the logic is right. And I think that's kind of where kind of in a report you can see now that's kind of why it's wrong, and you see the full logic. On AI, like you don't see, and that's kind of the challenge. Like you either do big bets and like big efforts in making sure the foundation is well done and bulletproof, or will be really hard to stop some of these hallucinations and these magnified errors.
For sure. Yeah, if you want to see errors on a math exam, just give me a piece of paper.
No.
I love what you're talking about in terms of like compounding error, and that getting more and more magnified as technology gets more and more powerful, especially with agents. If you think about it, like an agent can double down on convincing you why it's actually right. So traceability and auditability of data and data lineage becomes even more important. But also, like in a system that has agent-to-agent architectures and fleets of agents, one compounding error can be passed to another agent, and it's like one bad apple spoils bunch kind of thing. So again, that's where like that operational rigor and being able to deploy tools like Foundry in the right way to set up those guardrails is really essential. So it's a super interesting point. But you came up sort of in the business intelligence world when you started out your career. You were, I know, like a BI analyst at Microsoft for a few years. Are there certain lessons or principles from the early part of your career as it pertains to making BI work that have stood the test of time and aligned to making AI work really well?
Well, there's so many examples and so many things that we kind of sometimes kind of change the name to things, but they are always the same, you know what I mean? And when we say data is gold, still applied today, as was 15 years ago when I started. I mean, I think like that's kind of, I think, the beauty of data. That's why I always, since a kid, was a fixate of data, and because like if you get the right data in the right context, you ace on that one. The issue sometimes, and again, this is not only internally but also kind of external to most of the clients, but I would say also most of the players in this area, is everybody wants to go in this AI mode, but without having a great use case. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where I feel like back in the days in the BI was similar. Like, oh, we want a dashboard. Okay, but what is the question that you are trying to answer? Oh, well, I don't care. Like, I just need a dashboard. And that's kind of the challenging now with the AI. Is the same. Like, I want to be able to say to my board or to my stakeholders that I'm in the AI era, but not answering most of the or not resolving any issue. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where every time that we have a problem or or when a customer comes to us with a challenge and with this initiative, I really want to do something in AI. The first thing we need to do is sitting together, and I mean, I can try to understand, okay, what are the use cases that we do that? We have a good example now where others failed, other, I would say, competitors or partners also failed on this initiative, where they try kind of build the ocean. I mean, like trying to do everything kind of on a LLM and try to give the answers. And our approach was a lot more. People will say it can be seen kind of, oh, you were scared, so we didn't do the full blown. But we were kind of step by step. First, try to generate a report with LLM, but you only are able to select filters and generate kind of the exact insights. You know what I mean? Instead of just do kind of open text and just do everything. And that's kind of, I think, is part of the innovation, but also I think it takes the courage to, or our customer to accept a challenge like that, and I mean, and not go with the flow and then try, we just, I think it also takes, I mean, like, it needs to be someone very bold to actually do that and be a very kind of sharp vision of the future, where they want to go. And I think like having a well-defined problem and a well-defined, I would say, roadmap is crucial. And I think like this is where we also ace with our customers is, okay, like we sit together in the same room or in over Teams and try to deploy the best or come up with the best solution to solve the problem and not try to solve every single problem at the same time.
100%. I think that's very interesting. And I think it can vary based on the use case. And one of the things that I love about like our approach and sort of what you preach there is we'll sit with a customer in a boardroom on Teams, ideally on the Douro River.
There we go.
And we'll kind of map out the use case complexity. So there's some use cases where it's like, go as fast as you can. Like if you're deploying like Copilot for Cowork or Claude Cowork or Claude Code, like get your engineers enabled on that, get some stakeholders enabled on that. But if you're building agentic reporting in terms of the projects that you were alluding to, and you're actually speaking to very complex data that comes from tons of different sources, it's better to go like the old sort of firefighter adage, slow is smooth and smooth is fast, and really make sure that the right semantic layer is built. The clear understanding of the domain knowledge is infused into that semantic layer. The security and operational piece is there, obviously, in terms of like permission of data access on a per question basis, to your point. And then in terms of even the UX, like again, crawl, walk, run, in that context, it was all about how do we start with something that's verifiable and limit the user input by having pre-selected context options instead of just opening it up completely to natural language, and then now moving it to more open-ended natural language as the semantic model has improved, and then moving it to more, reporting and building visuals on the fly through natural language. So I think like, especially for these really complicated use cases where the failure implications are super high in terms of like the impact of errors, it's better to take a crawl, walk, run for sure.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I feel like one of the challenges sometimes is these kind of I would say stepped approach, the crawl, walk, and run, sometimes take time. You know what I mean? And what the client sometimes, like if they are not well advised, I mean, people can say like, no, you go from crawl to run immediately. You know what I mean? Or even you kind of skip that one, and you can see like. Again, like you will see this very, very soon with your baby. But I feel like as a father of two girls, like you need to enjoy each phase. You know what I mean? And I think like the same kind of I'll say parallelism you apply to data and to these projects, because like if you try to go too fast, you know what I mean, like and that is a reason why most of the AI projects kind of they failed. You know what I mean? And have the right context, trying to solve the right process, the right problem is crucial, and using the right tools. You know what I mean? And I think like going back to your example, a lot of people is like, oh, can I just deploy a semantic model and put kind of Copilot on top of that. I mean, which I would think theoretical works, but you need to have a very strong foundation on the data to the Copilot, or it's not the problem of Copilot, to LLM kind of understand that. Because and I think like where kind of Microsoft also was quite act fast and smart is like if your LLM doesn't understand what is revenue for your business, doesn't understand like a specific terminology on your business, that's why kind of you bring ontology, where ontology you give all the context about your business and about the metrics. And that's kind of where I feel like, going back to the example I was giving about this reporting, like they start kind of very smart, like that's like what the metrics that matter for your business. And once you are well-rounded about, and very clear what are the definitions, what are the metrics, that is where you can actually start the work and just apply that one. Otherwise, like everybody kind of has their own definition of of growth, their own definition of different metrics, and that's kind of where I feel that Microsoft here was smart, kind of bringing this type of models. But we also attach kind of and we have a lot of experience here that we can help and reduce. I would say like stop 100% is always hard, but reduce kind of the hallucinations and some of these limitations that sometimes the models have.
Definitely, it provides some degree of auditability, but definitely agree in terms of their product org, very smart with like Fabric IQ and ontology, and sort of building kind of the surrounding ecosystem around an LLM to make it succeed, and then being able to build and deploy those capabilities with smart people like ourselves, and obviously with really good clients and stakeholders goes a long way. How important is it to define, I would say, like the business knowledge as it pertains to building these semantic layers and operating tools like ontology? Like how much of the effort is on business knowledge definition and kind of ruthlessly prioritizing which metrics actually matter and what metrics mean from a definition perspective versus technical execution? Because I think you really need both to succeed.
Oh yeah, you need both, and both I would say kind of more or less at the same level and the same kind of area, but taking or giving credibility, or I would say not credibility, but more kind of weight to actually the domain knowledge. Domain knowledge is everything on these things. Then the team can actually develop, and having I would say the technological part of that is super relevant and super important. But you could be the smartest kid, kind of the best model in the world. Like if you have the domain knowledge, you are solving what? What's kind of the problem that you're solving? And I think like this is like for most of the companies, I think what is kind of very challenging is exactly defining or sharing and know how to share that part. Because like even when you go to the AI per se, kind of talking about an agent, people sometimes think that they are talking with their best friend. Just and that is and I think like it's very important to know how to ask the questions and to programmatically how can we actually improve, so we can speak with a kid of 10 years old, or someone that is very, very specific in a specific matter, I would say, or a very expert on a specific matter. And I think like that's why kind of the domain knowledge plays a crucial role on this one. And most of the projects fail because of that. People think that they bring the technical knowledge, and then there is no domain knowledge, and you have a bazooka to kill a mosquito, And that's kind of what
I've stolen that expression a few times. Yeah, no, 100%. And I think like we were very fortunate in some of our early projects around the realm of agentic reporting. And again, I would overemphasize that I think the degree of caution really can change use case to use case, but agentic reporting, especially for very senior executives across an entire organization, is high stakes. Like you do not want to have hallucinations creeping in. And I think when we sort of took the first stab at taking on that type of initiative, like over a year ago now, we were very lucky and fortunate to have some incredible clients that were very, very good at prioritizing what metrics were important and very explicit in defining what that meant and sticking to that. And I think that enabled the project to become an success and make the actual agentic layer around the reporting much more reliable. So I think that kind of like marriage of both technical execution and domain expertise can't be overemphasized.
And let me just add one thing to what you said, because I think like it's very important, because like it's a big shout out to the customer that help us on that direction. But I also would like to do a shout out to kind of the internal team,
For sure.
because it was very, very important for the internal team to know exactly what to do and how to do it. And that's kind of where I feel with this partnership with customer, we are very hand in hand in terms of knowing, and sometimes it seems kind of over reaction, I don't say overreaction, but over talking, I mean, about the problem, but the way that the team internally thought about that, and I mean, like sometimes it seems, oh, like we are thinking too much about the problems, but I think the success of the project also depends on that, you know what I mean? And that's kind of, I give also a big shout out, not only for to the customer, that was incredible in terms of all the definition and everything, but also the internal team did a huge effort from BA to data science to actually help on that one, and we are at so many back and forths in the, I mean, like small details, that actually those small details is actually what makes hallucination happen or not, you know what I mean? And here was, I think, was a proof that sometimes asking again is very, very important, and taking the risk of being annoying, I think is crucial here.
Yeah, and just asking like for clarification, even if it's like I've asked this type of question a bunch of times, like being absolute is super critical, because again, like LLMs are non-deterministic, so they might interpret something slightly different based on their temperature, based on the type of prompt, or if their context window is depleting, they can have context rot. So controlling the context really tightly initially was critical. So I think, yeah, a combination of great technical expertise and then a really strong client to be able to say, this is what's important, because if everything's important, nothing's important. And then also to push back internally and help us say, you know, we have all these other requests coming. No, focus on the North Star. These are the things that are critical. Goes a long way. And I think also just like the capabilities within that Azure data and AI space, and this is why it's so exciting to have doubled down on that partnership, can only help us thrive from there. Because there's been some other really interesting projects that we've done as it pertains to building intelligence around data that's non-operational, like survey data, for instance, is very different than transactional data in terms of the weights and all the different kind of nuances that go into that. And building out for large clients, almost like data refineries on Databricks, you know, powered by Azure, and having this sort of like medallion type architecture is so important. And then at like the UX layers, like either some sort of reporting solution or an agent or both.
Correct.
But building that data refinery with quality control and being able to build out programmatically all those capabilities that are able to transform survey data into some form of intelligence reliably, again, is another really interesting example. How important do you think that kind of medallion type architecture is when it comes to building capabilities out on Fabric and Databricks and things like that?
Well, for most of our processes, it's crucial, because like this is where kind of all the info, all the data is stored, right? And you need to be kind of going back to the most known expression about data, garbage in, garbage out, right? So
the ultimate law of data gravity.
There we go. And I think like that's kind of where I feel that, and that's kind of where we are also always kind of being very pragmatic about the medallion, because like if you know where and at each stage is the data and what to do with at each kind of layer, it's crucial. You know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of a good example, because you can actually have trillions of data on that medallion, but also survey data with 1,000 respondents. You know what I mean? Can also work on the same way and be very flexible as nowadays. And of course, like it's very interesting, because like every time that we talk about surveys, I'll be like, oh, so boring. But that's kind of where also this new world can actually bring a lot of knowledge and a lot of insights that back in days was hard, because of very kind of manual process work and with SPSS. And I think like this is kind of where medallion structured in the same in the good way allow us, for example, even I'll say a couple of days, I was talking to an internal colleague, and I was like, oh, we need to be careful just because, like, with the power of LLM, and this was kind of work that we're doing with Databricks, we're like, oh, we can just have like this layer of this agent just asking the data, and just like create the report A with the B and whatever, and it was like fascinated the way that was working, and I think the interesting things, like, because the data foundation was so well structured, the LLM was understanding exactly what the type of question that you could ask. But this one applies on the Databricks, but also applies to Azure, to Fabric, and other I would say data providers or infrastructure providers, because I think that's kind of where I think is the also another layer of gold, because like where also I feel like with Databricks and the Fabric and many other I'll say players, what they did a good job is like sometimes you don't need to be the most expert person in the world, I mean, about that one, but it's so well integrated the things. And I mean, of course, there is the issue of how much are you paying at the end of the month or end of the year, processing all this data, and that's why kind of we internally also, as a part of a strategic plan, we also say like we can also develop in Fabric, Databricks, and kind of things, but we also have a DevOps team that can actually, with a much lower price of maintaining the thing, we can do end-to-end with ACIs and those kind of things that will help a lot having an end-to-end process, I mean, with kind of low cost, I mean, and that's kind of, I think, because more and more, and we're talking about tokens, more and more, that's kind of a concern of the customer, I mean,
Token
like, okay, how much, how much kind of are we spending on, I mean, like, on a Copilot or a Claude or whatever. That's kind of another big topic for the future, for sure, and a conversation that we should have at some point in the future.
100%. Like, and I think also, especially when it's like a programmatic use case where you're using like Opus or GPT or whatever it is through an API, like the API pricing is quite expensive compared to like the value that's packaged into like a harness pricing. So if you have, Claude Code for $200 a month, might sound like a lot for an organization, but the amount of value you can get out of that is insane. But if you apply that same pricing and use to the API pricing, which is, again, aligning to more programmatic use cases, it can get pretty crazy. And I think, to your point, having the ability to think about cost strategies, both from a compute perspective, but also from a like data refinery standpoint, because if you're refining your data really well, before it gets to that LLM, you're not wasting a bunch of tokens sending it the wrong thing. So it becomes like an efficiency token prioritization kind of value add as well, for sure.
Correct. I think like that is also a very interesting and I would think crucial also point for the future in terms of how to use this type of LLMs and this type of infrastructure, I would say, because like if you try to always reinvent the wheel, you know what I mean, and not be efficient, you might burning, I mean, like hundreds of dollars or euros very quickly. And I think like here is where I think like a good planning and a good training sessions with the team helps a lot. And also there is trade-offs in everything. I mean, like if customer wants real-time data or refresh every 15 minutes, you can say, okay, like, but if it's only half an hour, we can reduce for half, and the cost of is a lot half. Like, is it also crucial? And I think like this is where we are not a company that we resonate with the customer, like we only accept and go, you know what I mean? With challenging our customer. And it's actually a true partnership. Like, okay, but is it real crucial on this one, or can we just reduce and the price will reduce also for the app? And I think like those type of decisions, if you take them in early stage, is super important because will help you to actually be more efficient. The customer will spend less money and have the same results at the end of the day. And I think that's kind of also super important.
Definitely. And I think like that planning piece is critical, and it can also vary by source, because a lot of these data refineries that we build out, whether it's a medallion architecture or whatever it is, have 30, 40, 50 sources sometimes. So different sources can refresh at different cadences depending on the business function. Something could be more batch daily, or it could be real-time streaming or event-driven or whatever it is. So definitely planning that out up front and how it downstream impacts different functions can be a really, really important architectural consideration. And in closing though, I wanted to ask you a little bit about sort of where you think things are going, especially in this last year. Like the capabilities on agentic reporting have moved so quickly, but again, it's still hard. But from your perspective, what do you think the future of reporting and analytics is?
I don't have a crystal ball, otherwise I would have a clear answer on that one.
I need to be
But
retired.
I think one of the questions I ask myself, I wouldn't say every night when I lay in bed, but I think a lot about that and what's kind of because it's very also aligned with or should be very aligned with our strategy at JTA, right? And I feel that wouldn't take 5-10 years to actually, reporting kind of the presence of report, like a static report or even like the report that we have currently, will change measure on that one. And I think like with the efficiency that we are seeing with so many kind of process that we have, and with all these innovations is bringing every single day, I feel that of course like AI and LLMs is the future, and will be. I think like there is cases that reporting needs to. Also, I would say like they cooperate between like. I think like they will coexist in the same environment. I mean, but if now with like you have a lot of reporting and less kind of AI agents, I think like this will kind of go the other way around. But there is like you still need to present in a board meeting with a report, with a real kind of Power BI or PowerPoint or wherever. But I think like what will change a lot is also the dynamic of things, how fast you can speed, and other insights that you can also bring to those ones.
Totally.
But the power of asking the right question, that's why kind of I feel that the analytical part won't disappear. I think like the way that we will interact with the analytical part will be different. It's not only kind of a static report. It's actually you can take a specific number or a specific kind of slice, and you get more insights through AI. And that's kind of the beauty of that. And I do believe is where we go. But it's not something from day to night. One will disappear, and the one will be kind of the best kid in the class. It's kind of, I think they will coexist, but there will be a big difference from the way that we interact today with those type of tools, and in 5-10 years or even less, in 2 years, I think it'll be very, very different. And that's why kind of I always talk about these. I think the real value or the big value right now is in foundation. Like if you have a good foundation, regardless of if it's a analytical framework, a Power BI or a Tableau or a Agentic, that's kind of the goal. That's where everything will be embedded. And going to the medallion part, like the gold layer is crucial here, because you know exactly where it is. Of course, like could spend hours talking about the data lineage and about data catalog and the data governance. I think there's so many layers here that if you can define well all of them, you are setting up yourself for success. And that's kind of where we always trying to get like that sweet spot where we don't go to always kind of the last innovation. Understand kind of the innovations, but be always kind of in a pace that we can deliver our work and the analytical knowledge and expertise to our customers.
Definitely. So, and to your point, like you get that foundation piece right and that's set and continuous, then you can literally have analytics on demand, and you can query things and use natural language. So it's an exciting.
And just one thing I also I forgot, because I think and it's kind of a demand that more and more has been having kind of in the last, I would say, few months. Is because it's so easy to get access to data. Our customers that are not most of them leaders and managers, they don't have the technical knowledge, but what they want is having the data on the tip of their hands. They don't want kind of to build me this customer report. At the end they might, but initial to do all the prototyping and all the insights, I think that's kind of where, as a consultant company and the data and AI kind of experts, we need to bring that data and capabilities for them to actually be the ones, because they are the ones that are in the field, they are the ones that go to these meetings, and they need to be well-rounded about this data. And that's kind of where we also play a crucial role on that one. And once that's ready and they are okay with or good with the mastering kind of a new report and publish like a production, that's kind of where we get again and do. But there's like this piece that now they play kind of a small impact for the sometimes lack of technical capabilities. That by default go to Power BI or to Excel. Actually, even today, like there's a lot of Excel work, and I think like this is where kind of a gent can help a lot. These type of roles to be more productive, and instead of spending weeks gathering data from different providers, different vendors, that they actually go to one place and get everything. So that's kind of one of our big bets also.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rab, as always.
Cheers.
All right.
JTA Labs, a data-driven video cast experience.